don't even bother.
Besides, my feeling is, when it comes to religion and spirituality, I'm segueing for us here.
Yeah.
Is if you say something and there's some people out there who go, oh my God, that happens to me. That's who it's for.
Yeah.
And the people who go like, oh my God, she's so weird. I don't really care.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that.
No, I love it.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be great.
Ask me stuff.
So listen,
Yeah.
I'm very excited
Are you?
that you're going to talk about things that we don't hear about every day and things that a lot of people don't think about.
No.
So welcome, Karyn Stuart.
Thank you.
You are, can I say where you work and everything?
Yeah, because we're not talking work. That's
right,
kind of
that's
the whole idea.
Karyn is the director of all the leadership programs at the Boise Metro Chamber.
That's me.
And she's a friend of mine. And she's very, very smart. And I'm very happy you're here.
Thank you.
Yes, because
This
you're
is
fun to talk to.
Thank you.
So please share with us.
So I had my little agenda of 4 items. And I thought we can segue, transition from one to the next. And the way I make myself comfortable, I used to do stand-up comedy in the 80s and stuff. But the way I get comfortable is that I have to figure this is like we were having drinks.
Yeah.
Right? You said that even
Yeah.
out there. And like, martini and just talking. So I don't want to lecture. And my full disclaimer is it's not that I don't believe this stuff, but I don't practice any of these things, right?
That's a distinction.
Right. And I was going to wear a cross, but then I thought, why when I'm talking about this stuff? Why confuse people? But the truth is, I think there are a lot of different definitions of Christian, right? And you ask someone, are you a Christian? And it can mean so many different things. You can be I'm a Christian who goes to church. I'm a Christian who doesn't go to church, et cetera. And I personally am like, if you follow Jesus's teachings and you follow things in the Bible, I think that makes you a Christian, right? And you believe. So a long time ago, decades ago, there was a book written by Marianne Williamson. And have you heard of her?
Why does that sound so familiar?
Oh, it's a scary topic. Well, because Marianne Williamson she ran for political office. She was in the primary.
That was recently.
So it was like 16, I think.
Yeah.
I think so. But she doesn't have a great reputation anymore, I think, because she's kind of considered like a nut. But a long time ago, she wrote a book I think it's the late 80s, could be early 90s, called A Return to Love.
Oh, my mom has that book. That's why.
Okay, well, you're going to read it when we're done talking, because
I probably did read it back in the day.
It was a huge, huge bestseller.
Yeah.
And she went on to lecture, and she's got a really great voice. And I think that's what propelled her, is because it's very soothing and lulling, and
It's very NPR.
And so she did a series of books, and she did one, and I can't remember what it was called, Illuminations or something. It's prayers, and they're actually really beautiful. And then she would record stuff, and I actually heard her speak in Hollywood one time. It was a trip, and she wasn't like evangelical, but she was promoting this whole concept or whatever approach. And so it's based on a study and a book called, here's my prop, A Course in Miracles.
Okay.
So this is the textbook, workbook for students, manual for teachers. And I think there's other workbooks that go with it, but you should see this thing. Look at this. It's like,
What's the copyright date on that?
70 something.
I like the aesthetic of that book.
I don't know what happened here.
It's a little
That page was intentionally left blank.
It's a little biblical looking in the
It's
sense
totally
of like
biblical.
Those are
the
thin little
pages.
1975, and that
I
would
love
have
it.
been my guess. And then reprinted in 85, which is probably when I first heard. But look, I mean, I studied this in LA for a while. Tip, right? That was like, what do they call that when it's like obvious in LA?
Oh, yeah.
So when I was living in LA, I studied this. But so I'm going to tell you the story. So if someone says A Course in Miracles to you, you'll be like, oh yeah, I know the story. I know the origins. So there were these 2 clinical psychologists at, I think it was NYU, but we can read the first few pages and refresh our memory. And one of them's name was Helen Schucman.
Okay.
Sehucman. And the other one was Bill Thetford. And I actually had to look it up. The something Ford. So they were working together, and they're clinical psychologists doing all this stuff. And she starts hearing, I told Katisha a little bit about this. She starts hearing a voice at night waking her up.
Okay.
And so this voice is talking to her. And this is a story. I'm not saying I believe it. And so she goes into work and she says, Bill, I'm losing my mind. I'm like one of our patients. I'm having some kind of psychotic break. I'm hearing a voice every night. And it's keeping me up and it's talking to me. And he goes, well, what's it say? And she goes, oh, it's saying all this stuff. And it tells me to write it down. And he goes, so write it down.
Yeah.
So she did. And so she would bring in like these volumes of stuff and they typed them up. And over the process, and she was raised, if you like this stuff, have someone on who's an expert, because I'm not, I'm trying to remember. She was
Allegedly. This is all allegedly.
Yeah, I think this is what I remember. She was, I think, Jewish and Catholic. I think one parent of each, and not raised in a religious environment. But somewhere in there, there's that she had religious visions. So we do get a little, somewhere along the line. So she really didn't have any religion, and so they start writing this all down and typing it up, and they start to get the feeling it's the voice of Jesus. This is the story.
Okay.
And in a nutshell, it's kind of like Jesus going, hey, I needed to come back. And I needed to clarify a few things because
you guys are screwing it up.
Because the 12 guys that followed me around, they didn't quite get. And I've read some books by Episcopalian scholars and different that, although they've really changed a lot too. The Episcopalians are not what they used to be. But no offense, they're wonderful, wonderful group. But I mean, it was
just
like
for entertainment purposes only.
It was very scholarly, right, back in the day.
Sure.
Anyway, you read it and you go like, oh, Jesus was from a sort of affluent family, and he was educated on the Essenes, and he knew some stuff.
Yeah.
And so when he spoke in parables and he told stories and stuff, it was pretty deep. And so if you are just a fisherman or a tax collector or whatever, you're not going to get the gist of everything.
Yeah.
Right? And so theoretically, that stuff was sort of misinterpreted, and then add to it all the politicization of politics and the church and all the different things that happen, and things get kind of twisted.
My husband and I were just talking about that exact thing last night. Yeah.
See? And so, just wait. This
How things get
conversation
twisted?
Yeah, because scripture is kind of like the law. Like you could have 5 different lawyers read a law and they can interpret it different ways. And same thing for scripture. And that's why you have so many different versions of Christianity.
Yeah.
Right.
And just it being, you would think that it's pretty clear on your view, but then somebody else reads it and goes, well, but what about this?
Oh, yeah.
And the people who take the Bible super literally and don't understand that the parables have so many layers and the deeper meanings. And
and use it for different purposes and manipulate. And all those things. So the Course in Miracles started, I don't know exactly how it started to spread, but it's been published worldwide. And in fact, there are groups in Boise, which is crazy because I was like, I wonder. And so there are, if you want to get in a study group for the Course, you can find one. And so I went to one, after I read her book, after I heard her and stuff, I went, okay, let me dive in and stuff. So I went to a group, and it was really a trip. It was a lot of times I think it's psychologists and counselors, because it's a self-study. So the idea is not to join a cult or join anything. It's to be your own path. And it even says in the first few pages, there are many paths to me, and this is but one. And so it's not for everyone. I mean, I remember my mom read it, and she's like, yeah, that's a lot of double talk, and I can't get through it. And I was like, I get it, and you kind of don't really try to absorb it right away. Just kind of go, oh, okay. And then it's 365 exercises. Oh. So it's supposed to be like a I mean, I want to laugh when I say it, but there's a lot of really good stuff about the Course. But it's supposed to be like a crash course. It's like a fast track to enlightenment. Ah. And so if you did it, which very few of us actually do, but if you actually did the exercises every single day, which are just kind of mind-changing stuff that you say to yourself and you do every couple of hours, and it's really not that hard, but discipline is hard for me. So, and most people. So if you really did it, I think it would be life-changing, probably.
You're talking about like affirmations and things like
sort
that?
of. It's a little bit,
but like more on a deeper level of what we think of as affirmations and the things that you repeat all the time. Just Is it just deeper?
I hesitate to use the word, but it's kind of deprogramming.
Okay.
Which is a scary word. But it's like, well, I can tell you the first or one of the first, because I remember it, because it was really hard for me to do. You're supposed to sit in a room, okay? Do it with me now. No, you're supposed to sit in a room and you're supposed to say, God is in that wall. God is in that couch. Whatever you look at, God is in that table. And it says, don't try to do anything. Don't rest. God is in that drape. And so you start when you do it, and you just do it throughout the day, and you can do it in your head, right? So later in the day, you're off and you're like, God's in that pencil, and you're doing it. And you're like, this is ridiculous, But then you do the next day, and then you do the next day. And what starts to happen is it's supposed to be showing you that life is but a dream and all that all the great authors and people have said, that it's an illusion. That life is an illusion. In the big timeline of infinity, there's this little thing in the middle, right? The schoolhouse, we're all here to learn or whatever. And so it's an illusion. Now, when I say that to my husband, he goes, if I hit you in the nose, you'll feel it. And that's not, and I go like,
my husband
I'm like, okay, well, yeah, but that's not exactly the point. And so it's that, we talked about the, on TV, right? You can be watching Fox News and CNN's on somewhere else, but you don't see it. Mm-hmm. You switch over and it's there. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on that just because we're not tuned into it.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So the same kind of thing is that God is everywhere, all around us, etc. So if you do the course every day, you do start to see things differently, feel differently about things. And the premise is forgive yourself, forgive others. Not original. I think Jesus said it. I think he did. And so the miracle part, which I really didn't remember. I had to do a little studying before I came here. And I looked, and it says there's no difficulty in miracles, and the miracles are a change in perception. So you've hated someone your whole life, and you're just like, this person was horrible to me, bullied me, whatever. If you can find love in your heart, and it doesn't mean you have to go be friends with them, but if you can change that and you can wish them well and you can do it, that's the miracle. So each time we change our perception, the person who's nasty to you, if you don't fight back and you say something nice, that's the miracle. And each little
that
miracle.
Would be a miracle for me.
But I try to do that now and then because it's so easy, especially if you do comedy or you're like witty like you guys, it's so easy to come back with something.
Sure.
I can remember being single and taking men out. But it's so easy, and it's not easy to and I actually learned this from a psychologist that I work for, who a woman was just this horrible woman in a line we were in for like a cafeteria style thing, and she was just brutal. And he stopped and he looked at me and he goes, "You have a hard job." He said, she looks at him and he says, "You're dealing with hungry people," and she just melted. Mm-hmm. We know this now. I was young and I was like, wow. But that kind of thing is the miracle, right? Just taking the second and saying something nice and doing something. And I think some of this stuff is a little more normal now. And I think younger generations are kinder. There's certainly what I see at work is that, when we were young and there was somebody who was the oddball or whatever, no one sat with them, they much more bring them into the circle. At one, they don't call them the oddball.
Sure.
That kind of changed. But, it's much more inviting and inclusive, as it were.
I think they're a lot softer for good and bad.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Yeah.
For real. But so I think that some of this isn't as earth-shattering as maybe it was, but it is. So it's weird doing the exercises, and they get a little more normal, and they get a little more okay, this is a little more like school, Sunday school or whatever. I feel it. So when I was in this group, I would go, and I ended up getting out of it. And I said to the person, I said, I come here really happy and I leave really unhappy. Oh. And it's because everybody was really screwed up that was there. And that's my judgment. That's what I was working on. Obviously, I did not pass. And so I would be like, they'd be like, I hate my brother, this and that. And I know the course says that I should do this, but I can't. And I'd be like, are you reading the same book I am? Because, all you got to do is make a choice and stuff. But I had, we all have our own things to work on. So I just was like, this is not for me. But when I did it by myself, weird things happened. Like I was happier and I was more peaceful. And my husband said to me one time, and this was a long time ago, so it's all been undone since then. But he goes, "You just get nicer every day." And he didn't know what I was doing. I was like, "Oh, okay, something's happening." I was like, why am I nice? What is that?
Do you think it taught you going through it almost a lesson in, because what you're talking about with the miracles, it's resonating with me, patience. And patience is such a virtue. So the person that they've been mean to me all my life and blah, 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 and I want to come back and say something, to bite your tongue and not say anything takes an exceptional amount of inner strength and patience, especially if you're just like, like, let me come back at you. So it's the exhibiting of grace also, I think
that's some of it, but I think it's motivation because like you can do if you're motivated, you can do anything.
Right.
And if you're not, it's really hard to get yourself to do anything or anybody else. So if you're going through the course and you're motivated to see a change in yourself and you're motivated to change the world one relationship at a time or whatever, then you will take that breath and have a little grace. And it doesn't mean that you go around being kumbaya to everyone. It just means in different interactions, because I think that some of it, and it talks about fear creeping in, is because I was in my 20s or something, and I actually was like afraid that I would be too enlightened. I would like vibrate off the planet. So I was like, I don't know if I want to finish this because I'm not ready to go yet, which is like very unlikely that we get to the Gandhi stage. And so my motivation was more to be, I think I was curious mostly. But I went to Sunday school growing up, I was raised Presbyterian. And then like when you take world religion in college and you get exposed to different things, I heard a rabbi talk one time who said that this is again, not an expert, so correct me if I'm wrong, in the Jewish religion, you're taught to question. And like when they're studying the Talmud and the Torah and stuff, it's a lot of questioning. And it's not feared, like I think in Christianity sometimes it is. Not all, but sometimes. And instead, the belief is the more you question, the deeper your faith. And so I think that's what I do because I think I have a pretty strong faith, is I question stuff, like you said, Megan. Yeah. The more you question, the deeper your faith gets. And not that you're looking for the right answer, because, again, that goes back to the authoritarian thing, which is there's no right answer. There's whatever you find. Although I'm a Dennis Prager fan, and I like some of the stuff that there's right and wrong.
Sure.
But yeah.
Well,
anyways,
and that's so I've had that. So we've discussed before that I became Catholic at 35 years old. I say I was raised by wolves, but New Age stuff, I have forgotten more about it than a lot of people even know.
And your parents were never into like A Course in Miracles, or you never heard it?
They might have been. I don't know. But so my conversion story was very profound. And so my faith, like my personal internal faith, is so strong, but I ask a lot of questions because I'm so curious. And that a lot of Christians, particularly, especially if they are not well versed in apologetics, if they can't answer that question, it feels like an attack. And then they'll say, well, you should just believe. Well, I do just believe, but I also want to know why.
But that's like superficial. That's not real faith, right? Because if you're just doing what someone told you, that's not really finding it within yourself.
And because the Catholic Church has an answer for everything. Yeah. And so I want to know that answer. I want to know. And so I think that questions are awesome.
Yeah, and
to
I think,
deepen your faith.
So in the group, we had people who called themselves recovering Catholics.
Oh, a lot of people say that.
Do they say that?
Uh-huh.
And it was just things they'd been told to believe and stuff.
Yeah.
And then we had people who were atheists and or Jewish or whatever, and they had a problem with it being the voice of Jesus or whatever. And it says, don't worry about it. It doesn't matter what teacher. It's just that it kind of comes across that that's probably who it is, but that's not, it's the Christ kind of thing.
Right.
And
the divine.
And it's not, I think the thing with New Age is what happened with religion started hating on New Age is that it got really to where I don't need God, I am God kind of a thing, right?
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
not what this is about. So, I mean, and I'm not like saying this is the way or the thing, but it's actually got merit. I mean, for people who do it, it's kind of interesting. So in my group, so what, two things I want to tell you. This is my segue. It says in it, when you start to do it, I forget, whatever, when you hit a certain point, you'll start to see light around things. And I read that and like dropped the book, because in college I started seeing light around people. Some call it an aura.
I was just going to say like an aura.
But I can't say that because I've never seen colors. And I'm not one of those, aura readers. And it's funny too, how I can see things and be a total skeptic on what other people see, which is really not very nice. I should be more accepting, but I started to see, I'd see like light around my professor. And I could remember sitting in a history class, Brazilian Cowboys 401, and looking at,
Hold on, I'm sorry.
What?
You took a history class called Brazilian Cowboys?
I also had
It
guerrilla
was a
warfare.
400 level class.
What?
Yeah. I got a degree in Latin American studies.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
With
okay,
a
that makes a
specialty
lot more
in
sense.
international relations,
So much more.
anthropology, and history.
Wow.
I spoke Spanish and Portuguese.
Okay.
Went to school in Mexico. And and this guy was cool, and he really knew his northeastern Brazilian cowboys, let me tell you. But it was one of those classes where I didn't even have to take notes. I just sat there and just like absorbed,
Oh, that's
It was
cool.
a trip too. It was like this little guy. All I remember is his name was Roger. I don't remember his last name. He had a big briefcase and it was overflowing with stuff. And he walked this around. He just looked like the total crazy professor, but he could talk Brazilian cowboys in Brazil. He was really interesting. So I remember looking at the windows and trying to figure out if there was light like hitting him, And I'm saying I missed like the entire lecture because I'm thinking about this. And I'm all, okay, walk in front of the green background. Let's see if it's still there, And I could. And I just remember I was like, what the hell is that? What is that? And so every now and then it would happen. And then it happened more when I was reading the course. So then when I saw that, and I was like, maybe my eyes are just tired. And then you read stuff and you read about people who can see auras or say they can and all that stuff. And I'm like, well, maybe, I don't know. And the minute you tell someone, what do they say?
What's my aura?
That's exactly what they say. So anyway, I told they'd go, can you see mine? And I'd be like, no, I can't make it happen. It just happens. So I never knew really why. And then it comes and goes. Wouldn't happen. And I was working for this company and I was a regional supervisor. And we had like 20 retail centers. And I was interviewing, and they used to do group interviews. Probably one of the cruelest things you can do.
Group interviews are awful.
To a human being.
Yeah.
And so I had 5, mostly women, in a group. And my friend and I, who was the area supervisor, and we're interviewing. And I'm looking at these women and they're talking, and the middle one just goes poof and lights up, just like this wide around her, all around her head. And I'm like sitting there and I went, oh my God. And in my head, I'm going, am I supposed to hire her? I'm like, what the hell? What does that even mean?
I need a more signier sign, please.
I
The loudest it could be, but there's something else.
I was like, and so I didn't know. And then finally I went, you know what? This is happening when I shut up. This is when I'm not thinking or judging and I'm just purely listening. And that was so rare that I didn't see them that often. And so I was like, okay. So then when I took this group, I kind of do the Donald Trump weave, if you notice, but I will come back.
I love it.
The weave.
Okay. So then say what you will. He does the weave and he comes back.
does very
So in this group, I would see them occasionally, because I'd be listening to these horror stories of people. And one day I saw a dark aura. And it was the first time in my whole life. And it looked like a cloud. It didn't even look like an aura. Like it wasn't around her like it is around people. But it was like this cloud.
Oh.
So I was like, okay, I have to say something, not to her, because God knows I was not. I was not.
Excuse me, ma'am. I think you have a demon.
Yeah, I was like, no. So I said to the teacher, who was more, he was advanced in the Course in Miracles, and I said, I see this, and he goes, yeah, well, some people have that. It's just like, I don't know, like not a sixth sense, but just something Some people can see it. Heat, light, whatever it is, you can see it. And I told him, I can't make it happen. I don't see colors, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to go start touring. And I said, but today with whatever her name was at the time, I saw this and it's upsetting. And because I don't know what I'm supposed to do with it. And he says she has a horrendous background of abuse and this and that. And it was horrendous. And he said, I think you're just seeing the shadow and the darkness that she's carrying with her. And I was like, oh. And I think I shut down after that. And I didn't, see it. And then when I started studying it more, I would see things. And I had a few situations that were just unbelievable. So you want to hear one? You'll think I'm nuts because this is really crazy. I was having dinner with a friend of mine, and I was telling her about it. And she's really open to stuff, She's like, I want to see, see mine. And she was like, and we'd always just laugh because they didn't take it totally seriously. And this restaurant, it was outside, and there were people on the patio, and there were probably 30 people. Everyone lit up, everyone in the whole place. And I kind of like this, and I told her because she was trustworthy, and I said, I can see everybody's aura in this entire place. She's like, what? You're nuts. And I said, it looks like I'm eating in a heaven patio with like a bunch of angels. And then it kind of went away after a few minutes because the minute you start judging it and thinking about it. And that, I think, I've seen him a few times. One time I saw my boss who was really pregnant talking to somebody else. And I saw it sort of extend from her over to the other person. And I said, what were you thinking about when you were looking at Sherry? And she said, I was just thinking about how much I love her and what a great person she is. And I was like, well. So, I don't know what that is. What do you think of aura?
Do you find that was happening to you more when you were practicing
Absolutely.
this? Okay, so no
question about it. It still happens from time to time. Yeah. And it's hard to see people that I care about because I have a judgment, a positive judgment. So I've only seen my husband a couple of times. But again, I have to be in a completely, I'm not thinking good or bad thoughts. I'm just sitting. So it happens a lot listening to lectures, teachers, people.
Interesting.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
And I don't know how you feel, Megan, but I definitely feel that people have an energy that you pick up on. So I would assume that that's the same thing.
Yeah, I guess.
In a similar concept. I can't see it, but you can feel it. You can feel the energy of other people. So I would probably compare it in a way to that.
Yeah.
Although I can't see it, I can feel it. You did answer, I was going to ask, did you ever see dark or was it always light? But
Just
when you
that
said
once.
Dark,
Just the one time.
so you answered it inadvertently because my thing was, well, what if is it lighting up even bad people or, bad things?
And I don't think he was trying to say it wasn't about her. It was about what she was carrying with her, which was really interesting. So
the shadow of her past, which is
a
lot heavy.
Which is, you could call it demons, you could call it different things, but it was just the hurt and stuff. So have you seen anything?
I haven't seen anything. I told you though on the phone, and I did bring it because I went to, remember that retreat I went to, and they had people set up there, and you put your hands on this, I don't know, kind of magnetic-y machine, and then it took a picture, and it gave you the photo of all of the colors of your aura, which everyone's was so different. But then on the back, of course, then you've got the descriptions. But then you're trying to analyze, a lot of people there had red, and it fit with their personalities, everything we were learning about each other that weekend, because they're a bunch of real estate agents and just very high-powered, go, fire, all the things. Mine's a little more mellow, but communicators, empaths, trustworthy. I'm like, yeah, that's blue and green for me. That makes sense. I just thought that was beautiful that it came out like that because I'm I don't know.
You have a beautiful aura.
I have a beautiful aura. Thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was getting into touching magnets. And, of course, this is where the good Catholic in me was don't mess with this, right? But then the curious part of me, which I always leave things open for for the questioning, for the wonder, right?
the plot.
Because yeah, but also I think I want to learn. I don't know everything. There's that saying, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. I always want to learn something and grow, and I don't have a problem questioning. Now, am I going to go to like a satanic church? No, a little far, right? We're not questioning that. Like, we know that. But things like this, if it's out there and it's been practiced to me, I'm like, I can ask. I can put my hands on a machine.
Deepens your faith, and if it makes you better or want to do better, then really, what's the harm?
Want to do better is always the thing. That's like my life motto: do better.
Right? And
in
that's
everything.
That's all we're trying to do and stuff.
What about you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I struggle with a lot of it because, like I said, I was raised with it. I've seen 0 results. I've seen bad things happen, but that could be anything, right? So I think it depends a lot on the individual journey of things. And you were saying that your group kind of got depressing. And I do think, not in a judgment way, but just in my personal observation, that a lot of, we'll say, unwell mentally or emotionally people or spiritually people kind of gravitate toward the more new age because there's less quote unquote accountability.
Oh, that's interesting.
So it is more, well, this is me and this is my journey. And you don't have to answer to God or any of that, and there are a lot of Christian churches or communities that feel more judgmental and feel, and so I can see how that would
I think that
happen.
if you have firsthand experience, and you'd have to see, did anything help your parents? Did they get better from anything? What was it? I mean, there's a lot of variation between the different things.
Yeah.
The course, interesting. I went to the first study group I went to, which I couldn't go to because it was by area. So I'm sorry, you're in the such and such area. I was like, okay, so I went to another. But that was actually a healthy group. Which is, I should have gone back. Those people, I think, were there just to be better people.
Sure.
And I remember the guy who taught it too was pretty cool, pretty like Goodwill Hunting kind of cool guy. Wow, I'm really dating myself. But this woman was crying because she said, "I do so well, and then I screw up. Like I'm being nice, I'm being patient." And then I'm just my horrible self again, all of a sudden. And so he did this thing, and it's kind of obvious. But again, I was really young, so everything was like, oh, that's so wise. But he had her go over and try to get a book off a shelf. And she kept trying to get it. And, and she couldn't get it. And she's on her toes, and she's trying to get it. And he says, try harder. And we're all getting like a little uncomfortable because he's like, making a fool out of her, and she's trying to do it. And then he said, stay up there and, really try. And now relax. And she comes back down because she's on her tippy toes or whatever. And he says, sit down. And then he says, how did that feel? And she said, not really good, whatever. And he said, it's the same thing. You're on your tippy toes. You're trying every day, and you're going to fall back and you're going to fall back. But the more you do it, the longer you're going to stay. And he said, the longer you practice, the longer you'll stay at that level. And it always kind of stuck with me because I was like, okay, that's reasonable. You don't have to be perfect tomorrow. It's not a sin. Sin means mistake in Hebrew, right? Not you're a bad person. So it's okay to make a sin, make a mistake. And if you're working every day to do better or whatever. And besides, I think and this is just me, not any religion or whatever, I think that the bottom line is the choices we make, and the good and bad comes from the outcomes of it, right? And so you make a series of bad choices, you're the one who pays for it in the end. And so it's about improving your own life. And the reason why it was appealing to me at the time is my husband and I are not really joiners. We're not like doing pancake breakfasts. And I'm all for all the fabulous things that churches do, to help the community and everything else. But really don't want to go bowling, with the group. And the Course in Miracles gets that way too. Like that was another thing. They're like, we're all going camping. I'm like, you all have a good time because I won't be there, And so I like the self-study part. You don't have to be in a group and stuff. But that group, everybody there was just like, I just want to, stop being such a dick.
There's a lot
and
of
I want to
value
help
in
more
that.
people. And that was good, I
Yeah.
think. And questioning it and going like, what does this mean?
Yeah.
Why am I saying God's in this jar?
Yeah.
What is that? So I think those things were it. So anyway, now total layman's. I highly recommend A Return to Love. It's probably dated in some ways, but before she went off the deep end politically. And that's weird that she did that because it is like, it's not, just like Helen Schuckman, the woman who did it, she never practiced it. She
funny.
wrote it and never did it. She said the guy did, Bill, the other psychologist.
Okay.
He got really into it and I guess wrote more books and stuff. But apparently she never did it. She's just like, yeah, done. There you go.
She did her job.
She did her job. So I have 2 more subjects.
Yeah.
So you
we
tell
wanna-
me what our timeline is. But you were going to say something, Megan?
Yeah. So when you're saying that it only happened when you were listening, so a lot of Catholics know. Most Catholic parishes don't have what our church has. It's called adoration, and we have a dedicated adoration chapel at our church, and a lot of places don't have that. But we believe that Jesus is present in the Blessed Sacrament, which is hard for a lot of people to get on board with to begin with. And I could talk all day about that, but that's not what this is about.
What is
So,
a Blessed Sacrament?
The
I'm not a
Eucharist,
Catholic.
communion.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
And so we will have a consecrated host, which means that it's now not just a wafer, it's Jesus for
Okay.
real.
This is my body. This is my blood. Uh-huh.
And on display in beautiful, what's called a monstrance. It's gorgeous. It's a gold. It
I
looks
like
like
the
a
ritual.
sun.
I think it's
Yeah.
sweet. Yeah.
And so we go and we spend typically an hour, but you can spend as much time as you want. Some people will read or pray a rosary or whatever. And I used to go once a week at 3 or 4 in the morning.
Really?
Yeah. And the times where
The witching hour.
oh, it was
No, I'm just
it's a
kidding.
creepy time of the night, but I have such bad ADD that it's really hard for me to just sit and listen. But when I really made a concerted effort to just sit and listen, I've had some unbelievable, unexplainable experiences in adoration. Like after my grandmother died, and she wasn't particularly religious. I do think she believed in Jesus, and she had asked my aunt a lot about Jesus before she died, which made my aunt feel very relieved. And I was just sitting there and I was just thinking about her, like, okay, Jesus, just go get her. She was 94. She doesn't need, just go get her.
Yeah.
Make sure she's fine. And her signature color was like magenta. And the lighting in the Adoration Chapel, especially when it's pitch dark outside, is very buttery, soft yellow. And I blinked and I opened my eyes and I'm all alone in this room. All the light was totally magenta
Wow.
in the whole room. And I had this overwhelming sense of, I have her, she is fine, she will rest in peace. And it was just like, oh, thank you.
That's awesome.
So just little
Stuff like that. I mean,
glimmers
when
like
you're
that.
open, stuff like that happens. And I think that's the thing. I've just always been really open to it. Like
Yeah.
my friend Jackie says, you've always been on a spiritual quest. And I guess I have sort of always been curious. I read, there was a guy named George Anderson, and oh my God, that's like really old. But he was before a James Bond Prague. And,
Okay.
James Bond Prague, the Sixth Sense, basically, dude, talks to dead people. And so he was the legit, and he did a lot of readings. And his the paperback books I don't know if you can find them anymore, were really fun because they were strictly transcripts. So it was just like one thing after another. You could just whip through them. Nice. And these are like one I remember. This parents had lost their son in the Himalayas, and so they don't tell them that, but you never know how much do they do the investigative work beforehand, blah, 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 all the skeptic stuff you have to get through to get to where you can actually listen. And so he told them, oh, he's this and he died here, and it was all pretty accurate and this and that. He said, and he says, thank you, and your son says, thank you for sending the helicopters. And they're like, there were no helicopters. And he's like, well, this happens, and it's not the same as like Beverly Hills Psychic. These guys were like really,
Yeah.
these guys were pretty, at least if they weren't legit, they had a lot of lot of documentation. So he said that like 6 months later, he got a letter from him, and that they got this random photo from the teams in the Himalayas. And in the photo in the background, there's a helicopter
wow.
buzzing around and stuff. So there's like a bunch of stuff like that. And he was really interesting. And then James Bond Frog comes along, and he's got his stuff's totally interesting, believe it or not. You know, like he did, was it Mike Wallace who did 60 Minutes like back in the million years ago? So I think it was Mike Wallace who was supposed to do a whole episode on debunking him. Right. And it was going to be like, this is a sham. And so they kept everything away from his people and his team and supposedly all this stuff. And then they did an interview with him, and they did all this stuff. And then he said, would you like me to do a private reading? And he said, okay. So he did it with him off camera. And afterwards, Mike Wallace came back and he said, you know, he said this or that. And you always kind of go, well, he could know this. He goes, but then he said, your mother or someone says she's really happy you have the blanket, the family blanket. And he said, A, no one knows that there was this family blanket that was passed down. And he said, and 2, no one in his family knows that he has it. Now they do.
Now they do.
But he said, there's no way. And he was like blown away. So I read that and I was like, okay, that's interesting. And then he did share like where Sonny came through, and said Sonny said, I mean, these are just so fun. Right? But you tried on a bunch of shoes. I was watching you, and she said I did. Like she tried on a bunch of shoes before she had to speak at his funeral. It's just weird stuff, you know, like that. So I had read all that stuff, and I was kind of open to it. And it's kind of like meditation too, right? The same thing can kind of get you there, and whatever. So I just dabble in reading it and find it, and like near-death experiences, which I think are really interesting. It's never happened to me, but all that stuff. So my next thing that it leads to is psychic dreams. Psychic dream. Have you ever had a dream or a premonition or something that came true for you?
I feel like I have, but I can't remember a specific. So it could just be the power of suggestion.
Yeah, I know. Like I think it doesn't happen a lot, so I can't do any of these things on command. But I've had a few, and one of them was my friend Jackie's mother died pretty young, and so I had this dream. And Jackie was living in San Francisco at the time, and I was in San Diego. And in the dream, I went to her house. And I won't tell you it because then I told her, so I don't want to tell you it twice. So I had this dream. And like for 3 days afterwards, I could not shake this feeling like, you need to tell Jackie. You need to tell Jackie. Every day I'd be driving to work and be like, you need to tell Jackie. You need to tell Jackie. And I just, just like bugging me. So finally I'm like, okay. And it was before texting and stuff. So I finally called her and I said, okay, I had this dream and I need to tell you because it's been bugging me that I need to tell you. And she said, okay. And I said, so I went to stop by your house on First Avenue where I used to go after work every day. And we'd smoke cigarettes and drink. and I said, so I went by, but you were sitting at this little card table, like, you and Jill, her sister, and like this little card table. It was really weird. And you got up to go in the kitchen or somewhere out of the room. And there was a door knock, and I went to get the door, and it was your mom. And she came flying in, and she was wearing a red coat, and she looked fantastic. And she came, flying through the room, and she was talking to you, and you're in the kitchen. You didn't really hear her and stuff. And she said, well, I just wanted to say that everything's great. I'm really happy. Everything's good. I love you very much. Gotta go. And she leaves. And then I had this tell Jackie, tell Jackie, tell Jackie. So I told Jackie, and I said, what do you think of that? And she said, well, when we were little, we used to sit at a little cardboard table in the dining room. And my mother's favorite coat was a red coat. Aww. And I went, well, there you go. Mm-hmm. She says it's fine. So that was the first time. And I was like, all right, that's interesting. In anything I dream, it's to tell other people, which is kind of annoying because it's never about me. And so the next time I was reading James Van Praagh, and it was like, how to be me, how to do what I do. And I was like, okay, I've had dreams. I can see shit now and then. Let's see if I can do this. And all I remember is you're supposed to lay in bed or lay somewhere, and you close your eyes and you picture I don't know, the space around you, and then you picture the space outside around you, and then you go through your ceiling, and you expand your space. That's as much as I remember. Anyway, so I did it, and I probably fell asleep. But then I had this dream. And in my dream, it said, I need you to go to tell the person whose name starts with A that a person who's passed on, whose name starts with R, says she loves her and she thinks of her. And go someone at work. And I'm like, well, that's not very specific if you're going to come all the way through, right? So I go to work and I tell this friend of mine, Lexi. Oh, and I had another part of the dream, which I didn't mention to Lexi because her mother died when she was really young, like 12 or something. And I knew way too much about Lexi to share anything because I'm like, I'm just making this up. I didn't really think this. So, and of course, what does Lexi say? Did you say it about me? My mother? And I said, no. And I didn't tell her. So I told her what it was. And she goes, well, let's go see Allison. And I was like, oh, Allison, and I forgot, who started with A. There were about 30 people and stuff. So we go over to Allison. We go, Allison, this could sound really weird, but, and Lexi goes, Karyn had a psychic dream. And I'm like, well, I don't know if it's that. And she said, do you know anyone who's died whose name starts with R? And she's like, no, I don't think so. Did you ask Amanda?
Oh, no.
And I'm like, oh, I didn't even know Amanda because she was brand new, social media, something or other. So we go over, 3 of us go over, and we go in this poor girl's office who's brand new, and we say, hey, Karyn had a dream.
Welcome to the company. Tell me about your dead relatives.
Yeah. No, but she says, Karyn had a dream, and they said that someone with a name starts with A, and do you know anybody who's passed on, whose name starts with R? She goes, yeah, my grandma Rose. And then Allison's like, oh, I have chills. And I go, well, she says hi, she loves you. And she goes, okay. And that was kind of the end of that, And I'm like, well, maybe it's coincidence. It's pretty weird. So I thought about it, and I thought, okay, I'm going to tell Lexi. Now I was encouraged because I hadn't struck out completely. So I said, okay, Lexi, I heard something that was from your mom. And she goes, really? And I go, yeah, but I know you, and it's, She said, well, what was it? And I go, she said she's glad you have the necklace. And something that means a lot to her. And I said, she goes, I don't have a necklace. And she goes, well, maybe, I don't know. So, no, that wasn't it. She's glad you have the locket. That was it. And she goes, she's never given me a locket. I don't have a locket. And she said, maybe a necklace, maybe something like a kid, I don't know. So she goes home, and she finds this necklace in the back of her drawer. And she said she never even looked at it, just kind of shoved it in there with other stuff. And she took it out, and it was a locket, and she never knew it. Like, she put her thumb in the thing, opened it up, and she went, and so she came back to me. I was like, and then it didn't happen again. Like, the more I tried, got nothing.
Wow.
Yeah. So the piece de resistance in my psychic dreams is fast forward many years, and my sister, who had a kind of rough life, was pretty sick and had trouble. And I had the most amazing dream. Like you say, the room, I had kind of one of those things. And I think when you have a visitation dream, like you dream about a dead relative or whatever, that there's a different feeling than a regular dream. And I had this dream, and I'm driving a minivan, which I said I'd never have a minivan, but then I got a minivan. Ugh. And so I didn't have it anymore. I'd had it when my kids were playing baseball and stuff. And so I'm in the minivan. I'm like, well, I don't have a minivan, but I'm in the minivan. And I used to wear one of those Beats, things where you have the earphone here and they hang around your.
Oh, yeah.
Does anybody do that?
Oh, okay.
And I can answer the phone. I can listen to talk radio, all this stuff. So I answer it, and it's my mom, and she's dead. And she says, hey, Karyn, it's me, Mom. I'm like, what the? And I know in my dream that she's dead. And she said, I need you to do something. And I'm like, they always need something. And then she goes, I need you to do something. You need to get a hold of, she didn't say that. She just said, Joan needs doctors. Not a doctor. She said, Joan needs doctors.
And Joan is your sister?
Yeah.
Okay.
And she lived not far from me, but in Northern California. And I said, okay. I got it. I got the message. And she said, okay, got to run. Jane and I and all these other dead old ladies were playing cards or something, It was all good. And I said, well, wait, how's Dad? And she said, he's great. So I'm like, well, tell him I love him and I love you. Okay. And it was like, there was nothing in it for me. It was like strictly, but I hang up the phone and I wake up and the room is like this weird white light, like just bright. And I've read like the near death stuff, super bright, but doesn't hurt your eyes. Now, this is where people at work are going to go, oh, she's a freaking don't talk to Karyn. But it was like sparkling white. And I said to Michael, I like wake him up and I go, do you see that? Do you see that? And he's like, no, what are you talking about? And it faded, and I told him and I said, blah, blah. And he goes, well, you better text Jenny and Emmy. Those are her daughters. And I said, okay. So I text them, no answer. So I call them, no answer. And they're busy with their young lives. And so I let a little time go by, but it was really urgent. I could tell and stuff. So I did and I did and I didn't. And I finally got a hold of Jenny, and she's very Catholic. And I said, hey, I had this dream, and it was Grandma. And she said, blah, blah, blah. She goes, okay, Ryan, her husband is a paramedic or whatever. Ryan's on his way over to her place. Went there, found her on the floor, and took her to emergency. She saw a cardiologist. She saw a bone person because of osteoporosis. She saw multiple doctors.
Wow.
And the last one she saw said that I think it was her sodium, whatever it was so low, she had about a half an hour probably left. And the thing is, she's so stubborn, which people who make poor choices are often stubborn people.
Amen.
She's so stubborn that when he said we need to go, she did not want to go because she'd been in and out of hospitals and rehab, and people don't want to go, And he said, your mom told Karyn you need to go. And she's like, okay. And that's the only reason she went.
Oh, wow.
Because she wouldn't have gone if I said so. But because my mom came through and whatever. And she's lived since then. Like, not high quality of life, but it saved her life. So I'm like, well, if I can, so I don't know. I don't know what to think of that.
But that's pretty amazing. It
is.
So now, Karyn, do you find that all of this, the psychic dreams and everything, did this all happen after you started this? Okay, so
this is like
was
way later.
Okay, but would you say that your, I guess, spiritual journey, right, your exploration, did it all kind of stem in that with reading the Course of Miracles?
I think that the Course in Miracles was probably the best tool for changing me. So it's a shame that I stopped. And actually, as I got it out to look at it, I was like, I should do this. I should really do this again. Because it really does make you a better, happier person, But no, I think actually it's a combination. I think like Sunday school and all that stuff, all the fundamentals. And then I think now with having like better movies, honest to God. I grew up with like Jesus Christ Superstar, little late, Godspell was kind of before me. But Ted Neely, you have to Google him. He was a babe. He was Jesus. And I can probably sing every lyric, all the words to Jesus Christ Superstar. There was a time in my life where I wanted to direct it.
Oh, I mean,
I was like, I could do that. I can do Mary Magdalene's part. I can, And so my reference.
Oh, yeah, buddy.
He was cute. Oh. Yeah, they always get cute Jesuses,
They have to.
Kind of helps sell the show.
Well, I also don't feel like actual Jesus would have been heinous looking. Like, he had to have been probably pretty cute.
Well, he was symmetrical. We know that from the shroud.
Yeah.
But you could do a whole shroud.
Oh, I'm so into that. I could talk about the shroud for 3 hours.
I don't know. I'm not an expert on the shroud, but
It's good.
I'll go with it. And the Catholic Church hiding stuff
Oh, yeah.
from us. Maybe.
Yeah.
But I think it makes it, I think it made it easier. Like, I have zero fear of death. Zero. And total curiosity
That's a cool way to be.
of what is next. And I am not afraid of exploring reincarnation. I read all those books. about the little Asian girl that they take back to her town who says that she's grandma so-and-so.
Oh, yeah.
Have you read that one? And
No, but I've heard about
the
it.
story. Yeah, and she goes back and she goes, that's where the bank was. And that's where this was. And they go, yeah, that's not what it is. And then they go back and look at the records and it was,
Yeah.
it's been torn down.
Creepy.
And she's like, and you owe me money
Oh,
to somebody. And the guy's like, I did. I did owe her money.
Oh, wow.
So I mean, those are kind of fascinating. And I know in Christianity, at least in Presbyterianism, it's like one life, one shot, one soul. And so there are a lot of people when you talk to, they can't wrap their head around reincarnation. I don't think you come back as a gecko, but then
I would
don't-
hope not.
But
God,
who
for
knows?
me, I would hope not. I'm so terrified. I have such a phobia.
Maybe a dog.
Okay, I
'cause
would
so
come back
you
as a
learn
dog.
some
One of
humility.
Katusha's dogs
Yeah,
probably
one
would
of-
be
yeah.
the way to go.
One of my dogs.
Demon dog or
No, they're very
No,
well cared for.
they're loved
Oh,
dogs.
come back as your dog.
Yeah, I don't want to be like that. Remember, there was that movie about the dog that was trying to find the owner, Dog's Way Home or something. and
Dennis
it
Quaid, I
Yes, and then the one life he woke up in, first, remember, he was the police dog and he got shot saving his person. And then he woke up as this other dog that some scary
It's kind of like Call of the
people,
Wild, where he
like,
goes through all
yeah,
this. different-
like left him tied up in
Yeah,
the
I'm not watching
backyard.
that.
It's
It was
horrible.
terrible. And then he ended up, spoiler alert for anyone, he ended up finding his people and they recognized him. And I'm just like, whoa.
I know, it's crazy.
So I would want to be one of my dogs, probably. That's
and I think
true.
chromosome lineup, like the whole DNA thing is really fascinating. Like they do a transplant and all of a sudden the woman wants chicken nuggets and Coke and she's never wanted that in her life. And they find out the guy she got it from was on his way to get chicken nuggets and a Coke when he got
Oh,
slapped.
wild.
There's a lot of that. So what we carry in our DNA is probably some of it.
They don't know where memories live.
Right.
And there is some research to suggest that at least some of our memories live in our heart because people with heart transplants have all of a sudden new memories.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
Yeah.
I know.
That's super interesting.
Yep. So I mean, there's a lot of directions to go and stuff, but I think you just ask questions and follow the basics.
I think that's what it's all about, though. That's how we learn and grow and learn new things that so many people just live their lives following this path and just reading and learning everything they have to learn on that one path. But there's so many different things. Not that you have to travel down every path, but if you're just kind of, I look at it as the kids who were super sheltered growing up, where you're like, nerd, nerd alert. And then the kids that were a little more edgy or had a little more because they were just exposed to more. Whether
Except for like Christine, who in third grade thought she was a vampire.
oh,
Those guys,
well, that's a little.
they could be foreshadowing some problems.
That's. I mean,
No, but yeah, the
there's.
artsy,
I mean, yes, but
I
just.
had artsy friends, and they were interesting, and their parents were interesting and stuff.
I think it's just always fun to be willing to have a conversation and learn what other people have learned in their life because I can't learn everything. There's no way. Like, there's no way you can visit every place in the world before you die. There's no way you can learn everything that needs to be learned to fully achieve, like, enlightenment of I know everything, right?
And it's the narcissism that came with New Age too, because it was all about me, and my exploration and going to see the guru, and then the guru goes, go home and do something good for somebody, But it's that narcissism, and I think if you're not in it for that, if you're in it to help others and grow and be a better, there's nothing
I
wrong
think
with that.
with anything, because I know that a lot of Christians and Catholics kind of panic about New Age stuff. And like I said, I've seen some shit. But I think at its core, it was a movement to make people better people.
Right.
And same with,
DEI. Oh
no, God, no. But I think anything, the same with
there was some good that came out of it.
Christianity, different, like the Lutherans thought, well, this isn't the way this is a better way. And I don't think that was a malicious intent. I think they were trying to do better.
Yeah.
And,
sometimes.
but then it gets distorted
Right.
and perverted into something that could be harmful to people. And so I think if you're willing to dig through it and not just blindly jump into something, because that's how people end up in a cult.
in a cult.
if you're willing to dig through it and ask the questions and find the nuggets of the things that will help you be the better person, I think that's
it's how much are you sacrificing, right?
sure.
If you're cutting off your family and doing stuff like that, there's probably
Well, I was going to
something
say
wrong.
that every cult starts with the do better, be a better person. That's how they get you. Because everybody, I think at their core, everybody wants this. Like, everybody wants to be a good person. Shit, I want to be a great person every day, right? Like, you want to do these things, but it's just so hard
it's
to
the
do
discipline.
it. So it's the discipline, it's the accountability to yourself, to everyone around you. There's a lot of pressure that then you end up putting on yourself. There's so many things. But I would like to point out that every cult starts like this. It's how far you go in it. There are Christians that were like, simmer down. You're going way too
and there
deep
are
in
parts of Christianity that are harming people.
Yes.
So I mean, it's every group.
If it's judging other groups, I mean, some things are worth
just-
judging.
some things are
Yes.
worth judging.
Yeah,
Okay.
because you have to. Yeah, but if it's refusing, I think that's the sad thing. Is when they're like, don't look into that. Don't talk. I mean, there are. I think, and I could be wrong. I think there are really fundamentalist Christians that are like, tarot is evil. And, you're going to drum up. And people with Ouija boards are evil or whatever. And I think, well, I mean, maybe, but it depends. Are you substituting one thing for another, right? Are you are you putting all of your faith? What is it? You shall have no other gods but me and false idols and whatever. If it's a false idol, but I think it may have been the Course. It said that no other gods but me, one of the interpretations was time, money, right? Is that kind of generally known?
Your Instagram.
Sure.
Anything that you make a focus beyond. And I think that goes back to the Course too, which is that's what the deprogramming is. Like all this other stuff to get back to the core. It's a little monk-like, I guess, like they chant and they do all this stuff to just get into that zone. But then if that's all you do, then
Yeah.
But all of us, at the end of the day, we're all slaves to this world. We're slaves to everything.
You don't
we
have to be, though.
own. No, I know. But I'm saying generally, that's what we all are. We can't live without certain things. We do.
Oh, but you can.
But I'm saying you can if you go through the process and getting to be there. I will say things like Ouija boards, I'm of the belief of anything can be used for bad.
Good or bad, yeah.
I don't welcome that shit in my house because I don't even want it in my, like, I don't want
I never
want it
understood the
entertained.
purpose.
I don't want it entertained in my house.
Why are you pulling up bad?
Right. I don't want to watch scary movies in my house,
I don't
especially if there are exorcisms and things, true stories, right? There's a lot of movies, like documentary style movies that have been made on exorcists and their works. I don't want any of it in my house. I don't want to, to me, it's like you're opening a window, and maybe it's because, and it's not that I'm not strong in my faith, it's just that I think that evil, the devil, wants an opening for anything, and they'll take the smallest one.
And that's a whole nother thing of demons and devil and what's real. And so the Course, people have a lot of trouble with, it says that these are constructs, like mental constructs, that and illness too, which is, I think people have a lot of trouble with that. Like my mother, who was super skeptical about it. So when I talked to her, she goes like, "Are you saying that someone has cancer, they gave it to themselves?" And it's like, no, it's more
sometimes
it's it's stress and we know the thing,
Sure.
But I can remember like when I was sick, I would do from this a prayer that says, "I don't need to go in the hospital. I don't need to be sick to get attention. I know that I am loved. I know that people appreciate me. I don't need this." And that kind of thing, because sometimes you find yourself going like, "Oh, I just need a rest," and suddenly you're in the hospital with a kidney infection, and you got to rest. And so, I don't know how much is self-fulfilling and stuff, but I think that it loses people because it says like as soon as you basically, and again I'm paraphrasing and stuff, but when you believe that there can be a cure, it will be found, that all things exist. So like when we find a cure for AIDS or we find a cure for this, it's not like poof. It's that it's there all along. And when enough, it's a lot of collective consciousness kind of stuff. When everybody has an intention to find it, to believe in it, to whatever, then it comes about. So wherever we put our priority, and that's big now too, right? Wherever you put your focus, whatever you intend. And even quantum physics is doing that, right? Which I do not get, that when you look at something, it materializes. And if you're not looking at it, it's not there. Have a quantum physicist on, I'll listen to that, because I don't get any of that stuff.
I don't get
But
it.
it's happening. So, it's basically you define your own reality, what you see. And I can tell you, in our household, I see good. My husband sees graffiti. We're driving down. I'll be like, oh, look at the trees. They're getting buds. And he'll be like, look at the graffiti. There's more of it. It wasn't like this 3 years ago when we moved here. And I'm like, man, you get what you see.
Yeah.
Look for it.
What you focus on expands.
Yeah. Each of our children, because being a helicopter mom, having kids late and having a career first, I tended to maybe be a little overly protective and controlling. And then you find out and you have to backpedal. And I realized at one point, I'm like, I think that almost spiritually, we have a mission for each child. I wish my parents had probably recognized what mine was, and I'd have gotten a lot of help a lot sooner. But I was like, I know this bachelor number 1 needs this. Bachelor number 2 needs this. And the way I motivate him and the way I support him is through this. And this one needed some empathy work, so we need to help him go like, do you know how you sounded when you said that? And that kind of stuff to help, not because we want him to be this perfect being, but so that he doesn't piss somebody off someday by going like, by being kind of stoic. And I think with my husband, don't listen to this, Michael. I think it's really it was to shift his perspective, because he was like really non-judgmental and positive when I met him and stuff. And being in the entertainment industry, because he did films and TV commercials and stuff, you get cynical because you watch Disney eat your studio and lay off your friends. And so he'll see that, and I see with him the change, and like little by little, like going, well, I think everything's gonna be okay and whatever. And I'm like, well, who are you? And I think that I know his goal with me. There's many to help me on my path, but I think my purpose is to just help shift in that perspective of like, it's okay, you can let go, it's gonna work. The surrender. Surrender, and it works and stuff.
That's awesome.
So I saved my
like
best
that.
for last.
Yeah.
How are we on time?
We're good.
It's not my best. It's the weirdest thing. Okay. Are you familiar, audience? No. Are you familiar with a thing called finding dimes?
Is that like pennies from heaven?
Maybe. What's pennies from heaven?
That when your loved ones are thinking about you, they'll throw a penny down on the ground in front of you.
It is exactly like that, but it's dimes.
Okay.
And
I like more value.
more value and smaller.
And pennies are being
So
discontinued.
More difficult. Yeah, so it's a good thing because your people are cut off from you now.
My brother is real cheap. I'm never getting a dime out of him.
So this is not something that either of us believed in. But now the skeptic, bachelor number 4, bachelor number 3, my husband, and then, actually technically number 1 because he was my first.
He was the first.
And the other 2 men. Not my first.
No.
That's a whole nother podcast.
We got it. We followed the first man. He came first.
In the
got
family.
It. Yes,
the head father, the patron. So he's the more skeptical, and I think he was raised, I think, Presbyterian, which is weird because he's completely Italian. But there was like one Scottish dude and Presbyterian that got in there. So he was raised Presbyterian, but he's not like a Sunday school kind of a, he doesn't know any Bible verses or anything that, I know 2. And so anyway, he's sort of skeptical. So what happened is we moved from San Diego to Idaho, and we moved very quickly. And we bought at the top of the market, which is really a bad thing. But we were really lucky because we got a house in the North End, and we didn't know where we were going. We didn't know what we were doing, but we knew we had to get it. So we got it. So he had to stay in San Diego and renovate our house that we'd been working on forever, but he had to get it done. And he did art direction and stuff for films. And so he can do a lot. And unfortunately, what happens with art directors and anyone who does that kind of stuff, they don't want anyone else to do it because they're perfectionists. Ugh. So he did the floors. He did walnut veneer for all our cabinets in the kitchen. Yeah, it was in a magazine. It was a beautiful house, but it wasn't like we did everything, painted inside, outside, landscaping, everything. I designed the kitchen. It was really cool. It was everything I wanted to live with and never got to.
Oh.
So, but that's the way it goes. So he did all this stuff. So he had to live there for 3 months by himself, and he's absolutely miserable. We're loving it here. First of all, my house is clean because he hadn't brought all his crap. And then my boys and I, they lived with us at first before they got their own places and stuff. And it was just fantastic. You know, we went to see all the sightseeing in Boise, and it was a beautiful summer. And he's just in hell in San Diego doing this. And he had teams, you know, he had people painting and stuff. So he says to me when I got to tell you something really weird. And I said, what's that? And he goes, I keep finding dimes. I'm like, dimes? Do we leave like a bunch of dimes? And he goes, no, like random. He said, like, I went out we had a washer and dryer in the garage. He goes, I went out and there were like 2 dimes sitting in front of the washer. And you're like, okay. They fell out of a pocket, whatever. You can pick them up. And then he said, like the next day, there's a dime in front of the door when I'm going in. And then I'm like, huh. And it was regular. Right. So then I was like, well, that's really weird. So I had to Google it. You know, what is it? Is anybody find it? And there's this whole thing. You can Google it. There's this whole thing on finding dimes. And some people get into like, which side is up? What's the year? Well, I don't get into all that stuff. But it is like pennies from heaven, right? Where it's supposed to be communicating. And there's different ideas about what it means and stuff. But it's supposed to be from beyond. Mm-hmm. And it's supposed to be kind of everything's going to be okay. And I'm with you. So I was like, well, someone knows, whoever it is, that you're going through hell, and they're just telling you it's okay. So he's like, okay. So then I go down there to see my house done before it sells. And we had to sleep on an air mattress because it was being shown, and then shove it in the closet. So we have this air mattress. It's been flipped all over the house, right? Moving from room to room. We had a sheet on it, pulled the sheet off, whatever. And I turn around, and there's a freaking dime sitting in the middle. I have pictures on my phone. I can show you my dime album. There's a dime sitting in the middle of it. And I went, Michael, come here. And he comes in and he goes, what? I told you. And I was like, okay. And he goes, that one's for you. You know? And then I think something else happened, whatever. So then I was here about 5 months before I started the chamber. I started the chamber, and the first day I'm walking in, I look down, and in front of the back door, we go in, there's a dime. And I'm like, no way. So I take a picture every time, and I tell him, I'm like, what the hell? And I mean, it really would be one thing if it was a penny on the street, but it's like, it was crazy. So then I'm doing something else, and there's like one on a shelf in the office.
Oh, wow.
Like where I was. And it's just like weird stuff. I'm trying to think. So this has happened periodically over 3 years, just randomly, like not for months and then something. And about a month ago, he had told me about something. And I think it was because we were talking about my dad, and we were talking about dimes. And I threw my bathrobe on the bed. I went to go blow dry my hair or whatever. I came back, and there's a dime, and it's on the lapel of my bathrobe. And he comes in. He never believes me. And it happened to him. He
thinks you're just planting dimes.
He thinks I'm doing it. He's all, you're doing this, aren't you? And I'm like, no. He said, did you dump out a purse or whatever? I went, no. So there's no explanation.
No.
Then about a week later, I decided to actually clean something. And I pulled all my shoes out of the bottom of my closet. And there's like a rack they put in, like, you know, one of those sort of cheap custom kind of things. And I pulled the rack out, and I'm vacuuming all the Aussie hair that's all over the place. And in the very back corner is one dime sitting in the corner. No purses.
Yeah, that's
no pockets.
That's too random to be like random penny on the street.
So Michael tells his friend Noreen in San Diego, who is a neighbor, who I never talked to, but he talked to all the time. Noreen's dad, we were very close to his dad. Her dad was an architect, and a really awesome architect. Built stuff all over San Diego. Really cool guy. Lived into his 90s. John Mock. And John Mock, we used to, I think we went, the Timken Museum, if anyone knows San Diego, he designed the Timken. And he was just super cool. So a really nice guy, really great. So he tells Noreen, and Noreen goes, I've been finding dimes. And so now they send each other pictures of like these random dimes that show up at different times. So I'm not saying you can totally shoot holes in it, I guess. I don't know how, but you can.
I know. I don't know how. I wouldn't. Pennies, I feel like I see pennies all the time. It's rare. Sometimes I'll see a dime. Sometimes I'll see a quarter, which I'm like, what a win.
Oh, yeah. There are certain rules. So if you've dumped out a purse or if you do something else, it doesn't really count. It has to be random.
No, random.
out of
I'm
the
saying
blue.
on the street.
Yeah.
If I ever find
And
a
it
dime or a
can't be
quarter, I
with
think it's a win.
another coin.
Oh, it has to be alone.
It has to be alone.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why. Those are rules we made up.
Oh,
I think to differentiate between like, oh, you're just like, making it up. And yeah, so I don't know. I do think the only correlation I can see is just usually when we've been talking about or thinking about somebody, but not necessarily, not immediately.
okay.
Like I hadn't been talking or thinking about anybody, I don't think, when I started at the chamber. It was just there. It was just
That's wild.
random.
That's really wild.
Now everybody can start watching for that.
Looking for the dimes.
But you Google it because, there's a whole bunch of stuff
Yeah.
that people have written and stuff. Yeah. What else you
I
got?
love that.
It's neat.
I don't know. What else you got to share?
In the metaphysical realm,
Sure.
I read, this was my agenda. So now I'm out. Now I'm thinking, I don't know. I think, when we were talking about this, I said, can you have a conversation that you don't necessarily believe in at all, but you're just kind of throwing it out there?
Yeah.
Have you ever talked to people about ghost stories? I always wanted to have like a talk show, which I guess now is a podcast.
Yeah.
And just talk to people about this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because I think
I
everybody's got
love ghost stories.
great stories,
Yeah.
We went to a dinner party, and granted, they're all movie people, so they're weird. But they were all different. There's costume designers, miniature makers, all different things, And everybody was telling their ghost stories. And, Ray, who's like really basically down to earth guy, we never talk, well, politics, yes, but not religion and stuff, said, yeah, I had this dream and I was floating, I blah, 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 it was out of the body stuff, like astral projection, whatever. And he goes, and I opened my eyes and I could see the vent, the heating vent. And I was like, whoa, and so people are telling like those kinds of stories and stuff. And so I said, well, sometimes I see auras. And waiting. And my friend Christina goes, I do too. And I said, you do? And it wasn't really a hard stretch to believe that she did. But I said, huh. And I thought, I didn't believe her because I only believe myself. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know why, but I can see so-and-so. I think it was her husband. I can see Jimmy's right now. And I said, go over. She said, so can I? And I said, because I guess she could either, do it on command or saw it more often, something. And I said, go over and hold your hand where it is. So she takes her hand and she goes like this, and she goes down and down and down, and she stopped exactly at the line like that I was seeing. And I was like, okay. So whatever we were seeing, we were both seeing. Or she was lucky. But yeah, so I think like ghost stories we have tons of ghost stories. Those are fun. And all of that is like, you can get into are they trapped? Are they this? Is it demons? Whatever. But I don't really care about any of that stuff. I just think it's interesting that sometimes the things overlap.
Yeah.
The dimensions and stuff.
And the people who can communicate. There's a whole school of thought on that too. When it comes to religion and faith-wise, like it's not really of religion.
But how come the sorry, my throat. How come the Catholics are okay with exorcism, right? Like there's a demon and we can get it out. But they're not okay with like some kind of messaging or you hearing something. Like that's not okay.
A lot of the exorcist priests will say that like if somebody and I don't know what they would say about like a dream that you're having yourself, but they talk about like the people who say that, well, your dead grandma's coming through.
Right. What do they say
They
about that?
say that that's a demon
See, I don't know.
impersonating the dead grandma.
Why?
Because I don't know why.
Yeah, because James Van Prague says, and this is all that stuff's pretty convenient, right? What they say, if it leaves you with a good feeling, it's a visitation. If it leaves you with a negative feeling, it can either be stuff like almost Freudian, like rearing up from your subconscious, or maybe a demon or evil or whatever. But most of the time, if you have a really positive, good feeling stuff, they'll say that's a visitation.
The only thing I can think of is that, if somebody's dead and they're in heaven, they're not coming back to talk to you through, what's that lady's name with the big acrylic nails?
Teresa Caputo.
Thank you.
One of the psychics,
And so maybe the demon is pretending to do that to pull you farther away from the church. That's my guess.
Think maybe
I
they're
don't know.
psychic, right? I think maybe they pick up on things. And I don't have any justification for this, but maybe they sense things from us. Like they have a greater intuitiveness
Sure.
from us that then they interpret as, because we think and know a lot of stuff that we aren't conscious of, right? And that's what we were talking about too. There's a book called Blink.
Yeah.
Ugh,
Malcolm Gladwell.
great.
Such a good
I'm
book.
bad with authors. It's a great book, right? And you remember the story he tells about an appraiser who sees a statue that the Getty has purchased, and he says it's a fake. And
Yeah.
he says it like immediately, and they're like, "Oh no, it's been checked out. We just paid $3 million. It's not a fake." And he says it is, and then when they do it, it is. So he says that the gut feelings that we think we have are not. They're our supercomputer brain calculating. You know this because you read it. They're calculating a million different cues: body language, this, that, the shape of things, how it's carved, etc., color, that we're not even conscious of, and immediately we get that gut of like, that's a bad person, or that's not the right thing to do, or whatever. And so it's not a gut feeling; it's a computerized thing. And I think maybe they have sort of a gift for kind of, although the random stuff, the blankets and the whatever, I don't know how you explain that stuff. So
I don't either.
The one thing I have to say about religion and it's probably because I'm doing Bible in a year.
Oh, that's cool.
And there were people that would get messaging from God directly that then had to share. So the psychics and all of this, I understand it, but I'm like, but biblically, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot because it's there. People had those abilities. So I guess my thing is always, who are we to say that maybe someone doesn't have that ability? And I kind of like if it happens and it leaves you with a good feeling, it's a visitation. If it happens and it's negative, there's also that third option where if it happens and it leaves you like, now I have to know more, and now you've spiraled down that you have to now deep dive, and that's where I think it's more evil, demonic, because it's pulling you away from your reality.
If it
and what
becomes
you
your
know,
God.
it becomes your whole thing. So that's where I feel like that could be a flip also.
Yeah, I remember when I think during this time I was driving because I did a lot of driving in my job, and I was thinking, and I thought, I forget who I was listening to, but I thought, I want to be, when I'm an angel, assumptive, when I'm an angel, I want to help people transition. I'd probably seen that like Meg Ryan, Nicolas Cage movie, the one that's based on the German movie.
The City of Angels.
City of Angels. German one's better, Michael says, but I don't know. It's Nick Cage. So, what can I say? So I remember I thought, and I want to be an angel that helps people transition over. I want to help people who are dying and go peacefully. And then I had this overwhelming feeling like, why wait? And I was like, oh man, I don't really want to do hospice care. God bless those people. And so I think in my life, I've done a lot of nonprofit work. This is a chamber, it's nonprofit, it's to promote the economy and business, but I've also worked for the YMCA and I've worked for other things, so did a lot of financial scholarships and helped a lot of families get to go to camp and do all those things and stuff. But not really. I mean, I'm really pretty corporate. I like the whole bottom line, make a buck. I'm a capitalist. I admit it. Because capitalists fund the money for the charity, right? So you got to have it. But I think I came to where, you know what? You don't have to do everything as a career, but you do it individually. That goes back to sort of one miracle at a time. You help people who are in that stage. Like my father-in-law, who was really old when he died and had a really rough last year. And I think, I don't know that I certainly didn't try to convert him or do anything like that. I think he had his own faith, but just treat him normally, talk to him, And Michael actually did that for someone. We had a friend who was dying, and I can't remember what he got some horrible cancer. And he had been married to my friend, and they had been divorced for a long time, and he still loved her. And she had moved on, and they were really young. And he said, "Do you think Dana would come see him?" And I said, maybe, I don't know. Well, she had been like really young when she married him. He was like 13 years older. And she'd totally gotten her life together. She looked like $1 million. And she was a successful businesswoman. So she walked into his hospice care, and like all of the little studio geeks, all the little guys from the model shop and everything, like dropped. They're like, who's coming to see? So first of all, he was like the big man on campus because who's coming to see Orlando? And then she sat with him for hours, and they reminisced and talked about things. And I mean, it was a huge gift. And Michael did it all. He like picked her up, did it all and stuff. And I thought, so those things that you can do, without giving your whole life to, I mean, if you do, God bless people who do it.
It is a very special person who can do that, who can do it. My mom is one of those people. She's phenomenal in helping people in those last days, months of, and she's always said, I would like to do this. And she's looked into it. Like when she retires someday and doesn't have to work, I think that's what she would want to do, is just help people. She'll talk about death with them. Like however they're comfortable, she'll go with it. And she's just a really good caretaker. So it is a gift if Michael can do it, if you can do that.
Well, he arranged it. He's a little more squirrely when it comes to dealing with stuff, but he was cool with that. I mean, he just wanted to do the right thing for him. And that's, I think it's a hard line. You don't want to be sitting there telling people like, what's next for them or what they're going through. But it's a gift. I've talked to a lot of nurses because I worked with nurses. I was consulting for a medical company at one time, and nurses have stories.
Yeah, they do.
I'm telling you, like about the one woman said she was sitting in with a patient, I think the patient's daughter too, and at the moment of death, there was like a poof of light and stuff, and she was like, ooh, she wasn't particularly religious, and she said, but I can't shake it. I can't deny what I saw. And a lot of stories. They have a lot of stories like that. And you kind of go, well, who are you going to believe? I'm open to, why not?
Yeah.
Right?
Why not?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm out of stories. Anything else might really compromise me.
I thank you for sharing like all of this cool stuff and just kind of presenting it in a way that it's also easily digestible. I mean, you're a great storyteller and speaker anyway. Good. But I think to present it in a way where it's not overwhelming, not scary, it's just kind of easy, even for people listening.
I hope
that
so.
It's just interesting shit when you really put it all down. And why not just listen and have the conversation and ask the question?
You don't have to buy into it 100%.
No, you don't
listen.
all have to go Google what courses or what groups are in Boise.
Yeah, can I start a group?
Yeah, you don't have to do that. But it's just, I like the premise of it. Everyone we want to do better in life. And most people want to do better. Some people they really like where they're at and they're, whether it's victimhood or their anger, that's fine. So I'm not going to tell them.
No,
but
and different times of your life, right?
Totally,
so all the old
seasons.
people in church, because the closer you get, the more you start to believe or you start to hope.
Yeah.
Right. But I think I thought about being a teacher because they have a thing called the unhealed teacher. And it means you don't have to be like, you have to be there because you learn from your students and you learn as you do things. And I thought about it because I thought, I want to have a group that's like not psych, just
right.
But I didn't devote the time and stuff. So if you're say, we want Karyn to teach us, you let me know. But I mean, I don't know. I think I just need to go back and do a few and see maybe different. I might be like, wow, this is not the way I remember it.
Different times in our life, though. Like, I mean, you said, and it's also that different season that you're in of what am I expecting? What am I putting out in the world right now? Everything changes because your values and your everything, there's different alignments at different times. So it's just a matter of finding that right one.
Yeah, and you have to, it's just like politics. You have to think about your clients and everything else.
Sure.
So I had to think, okay, I've got 200 or so people going through a leadership program. Well, yeah, if you include everybody. at one time, and hundreds of young professionals and hundreds of this. And what are they going to think? And then I'm like, I don't think they'll care.
No.
If anything, I'm probably going to get the, can you see my aura? Which, you
For
know,
sure.
maybe if I shut up and look at, maybe I will. But even then, I'm not going to go like, yeah, it's really good.
Extra sparkly.
You're really advanced.
It's dark today. What's been going on in your past?
Yeah, so.
No, I think it's very cool. Thank you for
Yeah, thanks
sharing
for having
so
me.
much.
Next time
us.
with martinis.
I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
it's always the best, right? A good stiff martini. Yeah, so we're going to let you close it out with our have a good day to everyone.
Except, that's how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have a good day to everyone, except for whoever came up with or uses the term Karen for obnoxious people. Because I don't get why it's not okay to say racial slurs about other groups, but it's okay. I can't even use my name at Starbucks because God forbid my coffee's cold or something.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't. It did reel me in, I have to say.
Now, does being named Karen then give you the privilege of getting to say derogatory things about other people?
No,
Because-
it really makes you behave, especially when it first started. When it first started, I looked at those Karens as civil warriors. Because someone needs to tell people to get off that lawn. You know, if I'm protecting your lawn,
It's true.
I'm doing a civil duty.
You are doing a civil duty.
And they've really gone off the deep end, right? They're really horrible, etc. So, first of all, Karen's a terrible name, and I tried to change it many times. I went by Jill. I was like in 8th grade. And then when I went to school in Mexico, they called me Karina because they couldn't pronounce Karen. And I was like, and my friends go, you should have stuck with that. And it's not a great name to begin with. It's and it totally shows your age. But it's just not nice to do that to a group. Oh, so what I was going to say, when it first started, I said to my sons, this is, I was really upset. I was a total Karen. I was like, this is so wrong. They shouldn't do that. And blah, blah, blah. And I'm not a Karen. And my sons, both of them at the same time, well, you kind of are. I was like, oh my God. And so
That's something only your kids could do to you.
So I think it caused me to think about my behavior. And at the same time, I think it's not fair. Because if you truly have a complaint about something, like I think the current, what is the current generation? It's not Z. What are they?
Alpha.
Alpha. They are so careful about everything they say that you've seen all the comedy stuff, Ricky Gervais and everything else. It's really hard to have humor. They have no humor. I mean, really.
No. Not
And-
Okay, I'm going to say then that's not Gen Alpha because my kids are Gen Alpha and they're hilarious and usually not appropriate
Well,
about
that's why you can't go with this generation
Yeah.
stuff because it doesn't fit everybody.
Yeah.
But as a group, they're so caught. Like they'll go, you can't say that. I'll be like, well, what are you talking
If I
about?
can't.
So,
Yeah.
I think there's a happy medium, right? You don't want to be an obnoxious witch, but you should be able to say, hey, that's not okay. And they're like, so if somebody's keying a car and you're a Karen for going, knock it off, that's personal property. What?
Where's the line?
Where's the line? And I'd be like, thank you, Karen. That was my car. So I think there's just a balance. But
There is,
I
but
am gonna-
we did go through a big period where there was a whole thing on social media with the hairstyle, right? Like, this hairstyle already wants
Do
to
I
talk
have
to
it?
the-
No.
no,
It is
no.
blonde
No,
mostly,
it's
though.
like the John
mine-
and Kate
plus
8. Do you remember that show?
Oh,
The
sorry.
real,
Oh,
with
God.
her
the
hair.
swoop
The
here,
swoop
the low
and
bangs,
the craw,
and
like the pixie almost, but it was if can I speak to a manager? Was
I'm
going to
say every woman
something.
with that haircut was a big old bitch.
I did that the other day, though. I said, can I talk to your manager?
Oh, good.
Does that mean that I
My name
No.
is Jill. Can I talk to your manager?
Yeah, my name is Jill.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm going to do that from now on. Yeah, but I mean, it was really nice. And I apologized to the person. I'm like, I'm really sorry, but I needed to ask somebody else because I know this can be done. She was like, she's new. She's like, I'm new.
Perfect.
But I wouldn't have done that in the past. It's only since the Karen epidemic that I was like, you need to stop being a bitch.
Yeah.
And say it nicely.
Well, I'm
and
okay with
getting
that.
older and having kids who are in those jobs, you go, oh man, I'm much more patient because I realized that they don't know anything, and they're doing their best, you know. So
That's all we
get
can
more
do.
patient with age.
Well, have a good day to everyone except the people who made Karyn a Karen thing.
And you, what's yours? Everybody except what?
Oh no, we just pick one an
Yeah,
episode.
that's
Oh, just me?
it. You
Yeah.
just
So
get
it's just the
yours today.
Karens.
Yeah,
So
just the
stop
Karens.
calling people Karens.
Yeah. And everyone else just have a good day.
And everybody else have a good day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for coming
Yeah,
on,
thank
Karyn.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karyn. Thank you. Okay.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.